Welcome. It's time once again for our weekly conservative podcast. That's another word I want to start adding. So, our conservative podcast with Dr. David Schein. David Schein is the author of The Decline of America, 100 Years of Leadership Failures. Everything about the presidents from Woodrow Wilson to Barack Obama, using the same topics for each one. So get your copy. Great, great Christmas gift for that conservative person in your life, but it is bipartisan, so it's really good for anyone. So we've been coming to you now for several weeks, and this will be our last broadcast in 2020. The next one will be in January 2021. We're going to start out the year with a bang. The first step on our discussion for what's in the news, let's talk about the news itself, the Washington Post. And you said they got it wrong again, David. So let's hear about that.
You say, hey, that's your final answer?
Well, as you know, I am no fan of the Washington Post, and in fact, some of the news reports that I see from what is the so-called major media, like the Washington Post, New York Times, are stunningly biased and reflect just frankly poor journalism that reflects very badly on these very historic and well-established publications. And so in an effort, they've been falling all over themselves to, pat Joe Biden on the back. And they said, well, he had the first female campaign manager. Got that wrong. It was Kellyanne Conway who managed Donald Trump's campaign. And then they said, well, if he appoints Pete Buttigieg as a cabinet member, that'll be the first openly gay cabinet member. Wrong. Donald Trump appointed Rick Grinnell, who is openly gay and well known and has held several very important positions in the Trump administration. So it's a pretty fascinating situation that these are simple things to check, but they display an extraordinary level of bias that overrides normal good journalism.
And you think that fact checking, since that's been one of the biggest criticisms of Trump, you'd think that fact checking would be first on their list, wouldn't you? I mean,
absolutely.
And especially something that's as open as this is. So because Kellyanne Conway's been there the whole time. So that's very interesting. So then second, we always talk about what's in the rumor. What are the rumors going around after all this news stuff that comes out each week? So what's going on with the rumors about Biden's cabinet?
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Well, let's start from the beginning. A number of news sources, even Fox News, have been referring to him as president-elect. That is actually an incorrect title. A person is not president-elect until the Electoral College has voted on December 14th. So there is no president-elect, not Donald Trump or Biden. Donald Trump is the president until inauguration, if there is a change in administrations, on January 20th. So they've got it wrong right from the beginning. But if Biden should become president, then the question becomes, who will he appoint to his cabinet? And so far, it's been quite a collection of wackos and losers who have been very visible. People like Elizabeth Warren have been mentioned. Beto O'Rourke, the Irish fellow who's trying to appear to be somebody he's not here in Texas. And so those are not credible, people, in my opinion. As you know, Elizabeth Warren claimed to have some fractional interest as an American Indian, and they ran her DNA and found that she has virtually virtually every American has tiny bits of American Indian blood. She actually had less than the typical American. So apparently had done it in order to try and gain some advantage in a faculty position at some point in her less than distinguished career. But in any event, those are some of the people they've rumored, some very far left people who do not represent mainstream America. And then they thought, well, the Washington Post even has come out, and again, clearly a far left publication these days, and has even knocked Biden for some of his business appointments. One of them, Anthony Blinken, has been in the news quite a bit, and he's out in the business of shilling people from the political field to get influence in Washington. So basically, as a lobbyist, and I don't see how that's going to create a reform position or reform cabinet in Washington. And then he's mentioned, there's been a couple other people mentioned for the National Economic Council, and there's two people from BlackRock. BlackRock is one of the largest private asset management firms in the world, and I don't see how that presents a new image for Washington. So you've got wackos from the left and big money. I'm not seeing how those particular people would help. So again, none of this is official at the moment, so it makes it a rumor, but they're not very attractive rumors.
Very good. Okay, so now let's go back and talk about the facts. So we talk about the rumors, all kind of rumors going around, and now, but what are the facts? Election fraud from A to Z. You said America is beginning to look like Venezuela. So tell us the facts on that, David.
Sure.
Just the facts, ma'am.
Well, just to refresh our listeners, Venezuela had an election a couple years ago, and supposedly the pro-democracy candidate won the election, but the current president did not concede the election, and later they claimed that no, he really won the election anyway, so he should continue to be president. And they've gone after anybody who supports the fellow who claims he won. The United States recognized the pro-democracy candidate, but it introduces some very serious concerns when we have a election that appears to have run for over 6 weeks, not on November 3rd as it was promised, and yet there does not appear to be any consistent way of calculating the ballots. And so what we're hearing is that there was a great deal of election fraud. And as you know, I commented in an earlier Saving America that the postal system is in great disarray these days. It is really not a very solid organization, and to rely on absentee ballots was something that I felt definitely would not help the United States to conduct a safe election. And that appears to be very true. And there are allegations that there were hundreds of thousands of absentee ballots around the United States that were brought in after the election day and were counted in some irregular fashion, where people were blocked from being able to observe what was happening. There were reports of paper being put on the windows, people being kept a couple football fields away from watching the ballot counting. So it's a very severe concern, because a fundamental of democracy is the sanctity of the election box. And so what we're hearing is that we've had ballots that were harvested, which is the term that's used when people, activists or terrorists, go out and collect ballots and then submit them as if they're legitimate ballots. We have reports that there have been votes in excess of the number of registered voters. We've got dead voters registering. We've got different retirement homes where people have submitted large numbers of ballots from the exact same address, and when they examine them, they all have the exact same handwriting. So it does seem that it is very important, as we get down to the very last wire. Today, allegedly Tuesday, December 8th, is the last day to certify ballots in order to have electors who will vote on December 14th. So it is rumored that the Supreme Court may hear something today. I don't know if that's true, but a couple of the things that I've personally seen reported that I thought were very important is there is a videotape from Georgia showing people being told that there was a water leak in the building, everybody needed to go home. And there's a security video of people pulling suitcases out from under a table in the voting counting room. And I mean, it's hard to argue with the security tape that shows people doing some very odd stuff after everyone else had been sent home. And this is a state that is what we call a swing state, where the ballots are very hotly contested between Trump and Biden. So I think, and then that's again a very critical state because both of their senators are up for grabs, and it will determine the balance of power in the Senate. So there is no belief on my part that Georgia has a secure electoral system at the moment. And again, I consider that pivotal to democracy. On the other end, speaking of the A's out in Arizona, even the legislature, the House and the Senate in the state of Arizona have now heard enough that they want more information on Dominion voting systems. And I've heard the word Dominion voting systems over and over and over again. And I think, one tidbit that I think is relevant to this is the state of Texas, which would have been a huge customer for Dominion voting systems, evaluated the system and said it is not secure enough for our state to adopt it. Now, 30 other states, at least across the state or parts of states, are using Dominion voting systems in this past December 3rd election. So if the system is not secure enough for the state of Texas to adopt it, then I'm wondering why other states would have adopted it other than the opportunity to diddle with it. They could certainly say, well, maybe it was cheaper than somebody else and we were just trying to save some taxpayer money. But there are reports that there are significant chain of custody issues. Most of us have watched different crime dramas on television, one of the 1 million episodes of Law and Order. And one of the most critical pieces of evidence is that you can show a chain of custody and that the ballots have not been outside of a proper chain of custody. And apparently there are multiple reports throughout the United States of chain of custody issues. Now, will any of this change the outcome of the election? That I don't know. But there are 2 points about this. One is I think that it's very important that we investigate this because I think that Donald Trump, who did very well in the election in terms of the number of votes that are presently being shown for him, has a right to have his day in court, as the saying goes. But the other important point that I've heard a number of constitutional scholars comment on is that we need to not be Venezuela. We need to have integrity in our voting system. And perhaps the larger question here is, have we fixed our system? And can we go back now for future elections, including the Georgia election on January 5th, and make sure that we don't ever have this chaos again, this disgrace again? So again, it's not just about Donald Trump. It's also about making sure that we don't have this situation repeated.
Wow, what a great topic you picked for today and great podcast. I do want to say one more time, because this is our last podcast before the first of the year, that the book is available from Amazon as an ebook or a print book, and you have plenty of time to get it shipped to you. Just go to Amazon, search for The Decline of America, Dr. David Schein. Also, a reminder that this is the last Facebook Live version of the podcast for this year. there will still be podcasts available on your favorite podcast platform, whether it's iTunes or Stitcher or iHeartRadio, any of those. The podcast is still available there. We encourage you to go. It is a conservative podcast. Go listen to it. See which is your favorite ones, download it, subscribe so you're notified when new episodes are released. And we look forward to broadcasting more in the year 2021. So have a great holiday, and we will see you guys next year. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.